A forgotten artifact lies in pieces on a planet far from Earth. Few know it exists except those who took it back and those whose ancestors created it. 4 young people are thrown into a race against emissaries of the gods to find its pieces. Mistrust, greed, and magic are tangled in an endless web. What will the fate be of the universe once it is found and reassembled? Get Scepter of the Gods, The Rod of Truth now on Amazon, and get wrapped up in the saga that will not let you go.
Welcome to the Motivational Devotional, where we merge spirituality and motivation for a balanced approach in pursuing a lifelong dream with relentless intent while in sync with the universe. Take what you can from this podcast to transform your life into the one you want to create. Good morning, I am Mark the Writer, and I want to thank you for joining me today as we continue our series, 50 Ways to Love Your Soul. I hope you've been able to follow along with this series and are finding it helpful in getting your new year going in the direction of your lifelong goals, as well as in deepening your spirituality. If you know anyone who could use some encouragement in setting goals or spiritual development, then please share this podcast or the blog version from motivational-devotional.com. I did an episode yesterday on Love What You Forgot, and today is Love Your Mind. You might wonder if there is a difference, and there actually is, although these two podcasts have some overlap. Our conscious minds tend to be like desktops with a certain amount of space, and the things we keep in mind are ideas and thoughts that can actively stay on the desktop space. Some of us have slippery desktops, and things seem to slide off with no warning. Some of us seem to have pernicious cats in our minds that knock things off that we need to remember and then act like they know nothing of it. I think I have one of those. Actually, I've come to understand my own mind as more of a playground than a desktop, and the things I need to keep in mind are what I call my little thought kids, and as long as they play nicely on the playground, I can remember things. Otherwise, who knows whether I will remember. So that's where I see these 2 episode ideas overlapping, and however your mind works has to do with what and how much you tend to forget. That brings us into what this is about today as we think about how our minds work. Don't worry, I don't know enough about the mind to know a lot of technical stuff that would make this a boring, musty old podcast that only doctors would find interesting. On the contrary, this is about the fascinating ways that our minds perceive the world, organize our views of reality, and serve as our tools in this lifetime. That last thing is the first thing we should talk about, because I think that most people live as servants to their own minds. We think the mind is the governor, the dictator, or something like that. We think the mind is the thing. And when someone suggests that we use the mind as a tool and we make the mind serve us instead of serving the mind, we get confused. How can we do that? Isn't that like turning it on itself? Well, no, not really, but only not really if we understand that our will, our dreams, and our intent don't come from the mind. Those come from spirit and are processed in the mind. When I say they come from spirit, I mean divine mind, or from God's mind, or universal consciousness. And our individual spirits can have ideas that are inspiration, and then our mind serves us by processing those ideas and crunching them into plans and such. When the mind starts that crunching, we need to maintain a spiritual awareness that holds a firm grip on the spiritual flow of the universe to realize that what goes on in the mind is not reality, but it is our way of functioning in reality. The mind is like a computer. I have this new AI app on my phone that does a lot of really cool things. It can create beautiful drawings. It came up with a fitness plan that's actually not bad. It found some great information on book marketing that would have taken me a long time to put together using web search. It does things I never thought a computer would be able to do. But that's as far as it goes. It's a computer. It doesn't hear input and then respond with, "Wow, that's really cool. That makes me think and wonder," and then start reflecting on some connections it might make with other really cool things it heard previously. You might think that your mind can do that, but no, not without your spirit being involved. Your mind is like a computer, and your consciousness is not your mind. Your consciousness lives on after you die, but not your mind. I believe that the mind is like a hybrid thing, made up of brain and consciousness. This is why the mind, in conjunction with consciousness, organizes our view of reality. But again, the mind is the servant to the consciousness. Your mind's perception of the world is dependent upon how your consciousness views the world, and then the way your mind serves you is affected by that. With all that said, your mind is a fascinating place. There exists in your mind infinite possibilities. Your mind has the power to move you forward in life or hold you back, depending on how you program it, because, again, it is like a computer. Your mind is powerful, it is beautiful, and it can be one of your greatest assets if you work on your consciousness being in the driver's seat. Then you can love your mind. As you love your mind, realize that all of creation conspires in your favor. Trust that the universe always has your back. Ram Dass once said, "The mind is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master."
Thank you for taking the time to listen today. Please help keep this podcast going by following the Motivational Devotional Facebook page, following @Threefold Way Radio on Twitter, and sharing the written format of today's message from motivational-devotional.com on your social media. I am deeply grateful for your support, and thank you for letting Motivational Devotional be part of your journey. Peace out. See you tomorrow.
Motivational Devotional is a production of Threefold Way Radio, LLC.